Can you imagine a world where you knock out Robert Whittaker and put a whooping on Peter Yan and you are not next in line for a title championship? Today, guys, we're going to be asking the question, should you ever say no to a title fight? But before we get into that, last video I asked you if Bo Nickal was crazy for thinking that the UFC were protecting Khamzat Chimaev from him. And they both have a similar fan base, which is what I was talking about. And thanks to these two comments, these guys are a perfect example of what I was talking about. Eugene says, Bo is delusional, whereas Ruslam is clearly a US wrestling fan with a 3-time Hedge winner against a guy who got a ribbon for beating up teenage Swedes, not even close. Bo knows he can smash him and you'll all become believers when that happens. Look, Russin, personally, I think that Bo will get smashed, but I really want to see that fight and get proven wrong. I'll remember your comment, mate, and you can type out, I told you so, when that fight does eventually happen, if Bo happens to win it. But let's get into it today, guys. Now, obviously, if you're horribly, horribly injured, you should say no to a title fight. But having said that, every fighter takes some injury into a fight. So like barring a snapped leg or something obvious like that, you've always got these little injuries that are happening all the time. Like O'Malley with his rib when he went up against Aljo, Volk with his elbow that needed surgery when he went up against Yair Rodriguez. There's always these sort of examples. Like the UFC has a real policy of the show must go on. The machine must be fed. Even if you're TJ Dillashaw and you're going into that cage with one arm, you are expected to get in there and get fighting. So why are we even talking about this, right? Usman and Chimaev have been offered the next title shot at Sean Strickland, and they haven't even got a win at the top of that division. I don't even think Usman has a win in that division at all. Like, I think Chimaev might have one from back in the day when he was changing up weight classes, but like, why? Why are they getting offered Sean Strickland? Well, number one, it's because they need to sweeten the deal for Usman to actually take on Chimaev, but it's also to show DDP and other fighters like him, Dricus du Plessis and other fighters like him, like Merab Delavelashvili, that when that championship contract slides into your inbox, you click sign, right? Dricus du Plessis said he couldn't fight on 6 weeks notice because he had a bad foot. Now look, I really like DDP, so whether or not his foot was falling off or if it was sprained, like, we will leave that to him, but I don't remember seeing any photo of his foot in a sling or his leg in a cast or anything like that, guys. And if you remember, the UFC had to sell that event in Sydney. Cannonier is pay-per-view poison as much as I'm starting to like the guy. And risking Sean Strickland being the face of the company as one of the champions, I mean, just look at Sean Strickland's Twitter. You try and put a commercial after his interview on ESPN. So the UFC needed a solid hand, and DDP went against it. And again, you don't knock out Robert Whittaker. I mean, he almost finished him twice in the first round and then again in the second. He almost finished him twice in the same fight. I mean, he did eventually finish him, but you know what I'm saying. Saying no to Dana has consequences, and now DDP is going to learn that as this machine rolls on. It will be months till Strickland fights whoever from this upcoming matchup between Usman and Chimaev. And there might be a rematch between Strickland and the winner of Usman and Chimaev. Izzy might come back after that and walk straight into a title shot. There could be 3 or 4 title shots in the bank before DDP gets that call now. The iron in Sydney was hot, and for whatever reason, DDP didn't strike, and now he has to have another fight, and he has to win it, and he has to win it in a more exciting fashion than any other contender is winning their fights on a fight night or a pay-per-view in the mix, because the louder and the better you win these fights, the more the media, and not just the media, but also the fans have recency bias, and the more that they will start to scream for another contender to get a title shot over you. So again, guys, the question is, other than if your leg or shoulder is falling off, unless something is messed up, should you ever say no to a title fight? Look at Merab Dvalishvili. Let's talk about him, right? He smashed Yan, smashed him, and then said no to Aljo. Now he needs to go through Henry Cejudo. And what if Sean O'Malley and Vera have a war, right? And that requires a rematch. Or they just have a great war. And then Sandhagen gets another win, an exciting win. And again, if you're Merab Dvalishvili, you could be 2 or 3 title fights away from your next shot. And depending on how active the champion is, you could be talking to, like a year and a half. And so much can change in this sport, guys. Try and cast your minds back to just June of this year, just April, June of this year. We were talking about what is next for Israel Adesanya. There is nothing left on the cards. And then as we rolled into Sydney, it was Sean Strickland was exciting. Cannonier put it on Vittori. That was exciting. DDP and Israel Adesanya had that amazing face-off. That was exciting. Izzy went from no contenders to 3 contenders, and now Izzy isn't even there, and you've still got DDP. Robert Whittaker could get another win and bounce back. You could have Chimaev. You could have Usman re-establishing himself as a sort of GOAT in the sport if he beats Chimaev. All of this can change in 6 months. And by saying no to a title fight, you are putting yourself 3 storylines, 2 storylines behind. It is a very, very dangerous thing to do, to say no to the UFC when a title fight comes and slides into your inbox. Guys, I think I've made my point on this. If you get offered a title fight, you should say yes. But if you disagree with me, let me know why. Put it down there in the comments. I love hearing your feedback. If you guys have been enjoying these videos, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button, and I'll see you all in the next one.